It is 4:30 and we are at our Public Safety Committee meeting. It is Tuesday, August 18th, 2020, 4:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Miss Angela, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we got Miss Angela, we have Savino, we have Miss Judy, and we have myself, so we do have a full quorum. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. It passes. I need approval for the minutes.
Can I ask a question
Yes,
before
ma'am.
the motion, which is probably not appropriate? I just noticed on page 3, which is page 1 of the minutes, at the very bottom, number 6, the resolution 20-38. Did we actually put that on the consent agenda, or did it?
No, ma'am, I believe that we put that on the,
Regular
regular agenda because we wanted to ask questions about it, and Angela asked some questions about it.
So,
And she wanted those, from now on, those houses separated. And then we passed it and moved on.
so I think the minutes need to reflect, if we could amend them to say on the regular
On page 3,
agenda.
number 6.
And just change the word consent to regular.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would move to approve the minutes from the July 14th, 2020 regular Public Safety Committee meeting with that one change.
A second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Did you get our change? Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, so we'll move on to our regular items. Consider Resolution 20XX, condemnations. Mr. Bill.
Good afternoon. What you have before you are a list of this month's condemnation parcels. There are 8 of them. They're located on page 8 of the packet. They are for the usual dilapidated, deterioration, open to the public, inadequate maintenance, and staff is recommending approval of this resolution for consent.
Okay. I want to make sure that everybody understands these are condemnations, not nuisance properties. Okay. Do you understand that, Miss Angela?
Yes, I just have.
Okay, perfect. Do I have a motion to pass these on to the consent agenda?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I just would like to tell you that there are so many every month. Why are there so
Miss
many every
Miss
month?
Angela, your same things happening that happened during city council. It's like you're muffled or something like that. We need a little bit clearer so we can understand what you're saying.
Hold on a second. Let me try to turn it. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Sit right there and speak. Gotcha.
Don't move. Hold it. Turn it. Tilt just to the right.
Just to the
My
right.
my question is, why are there always so many? It's just that we've been waiting a long time to do it this way? Because or do y'all walk around, do y'all take a cruise through the city weekly or something? I just hard to understand why there are so many every month.
Bill, would you like to answer that?
Because there are so many out there that it's easy. This is actually only a fraction of the ones that, if it were possible to do financially. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of decrepit properties out there, and so this is the ones that we've got in the mix right now.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. I just was concerned that the numbers getting larger and larger every month.
No, ma'am, we're an older town on some of the ends, and they just happen that way.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a
I've
motion?
written that out.
Do I have a motion to move this on to the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I move to recommend a full council approval on the consent agenda resolution requiring the removal and or demolition of damaged and dilapidated buildings listed on Exhibit A.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Savino seconds it. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Angela, we didn't hear you, hon.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go on to number 5, consider amendments to Chapter 16, the nuisance. Bill, are you a nuisance today?
I'm going to here.
Okay.
Just collect my thoughts. This is what I think may be the last night that we look at these. I think that it's possible when we go through these, we may wrap up these amendments. The ones that are new are on page 13 of the packet. And this has to do with the removal of nuisances on public properties, things that may have been set up, structures, illegal structures, and basically how we have to go through this. This is the one that came out of the Honolulu. It started with the Honolulu, and working with Parker, he's been really good, working with Bill Bartlett, trying to thin this out to what are the requirements, what do we need to do this legally to be able to move structures that are in public property, public places, and do so that in a way that will survive challenges by other parties. So we begin with basically a series of definitions that goes down and actually A, B, C, D. You got those through the bottom of 13 that are going to serve notice within this section only.
Okay, so we started the ordinance at 10, page 10. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you're already on 13.
Well, we've been through the other one
Okay,
numerous times, and so I want to focus on this, and then the last section we'll jump to tonight, hopefully, will be the one on the vehicles regarding, if you remember, registration and insurance and rights of way and how to tow, but that's later. This is the one that we really think that code enforcement needs to deal with all these structures that have been showing up in all sorts of public places and how to get rid of them legally.
okay.
So we define, on page 13, we define what is a public premise, defines unlawful structures, personal property, because that's what you're taking, stored personal property, which will come into play here.
Miss Judy, do you have any questions on this so far?
I do have a couple, but you know, they're semantical, and I'm gonna guess this needs to go to legal anyway. So I think we can take care of it there.
Is it going to legal?
Once it's finalized here and approved, I have no problem with it going through legal for another set of eyes on it. If that's what you choose to do, that's fine.
Well, forgive me, Madam Chair, but I was looking at the code book today, and it does say legal should see all policies,
she's been
ordinances.
reading.
Yeah.
Legal should see
I
all.
was a
I
little
like
bored today, sorry.
financial needs to see all too. We're just kind of hanging out in this committee, you know.
No, you've really looked at it.
Okay.
If the committee wants to, if you guys get around to approving it today, it could go on the next
Yeah.
legal, which the agenda is going to
Next
be
week.
put together at the end of this week. So that's possible that it wouldn't even slow us up
Okay,
necessarily.
and legal's mainly going to be the verbiage,
Yeah,
more than anything. Okay, I'm good with that.
Plus, it could still go on city council's agenda.
Correct. Okay. Continue, Mr. Bill, please.
Okay, if we're okay with those definitions. Starting out at the top, and you'll see a lot of notice in here. That's what makes it survivable, because you can't just take stuff. And so unlawful structures, stored personal property not removed by the owner within 24 hours of written notice shall be subject to summary removal and impoundment by the city, provided that moving such property to another location on public property shall not constitute removal by the owner. So you basically have to notice that you're going to be taking this stuff. City serving a written notice requiring removal by the owner of unlawful structures or stored personal property no later than 24 hours prior to removal and impoundment of the city. Notice shall be deemed served by the owner of any unlawful structure or stored personal property upon actual delivery of the notice to the person storing personal property or occupying an unlawful structure, or upon posting prominently and conspicuously on the property. So notice has to be given to somebody or placed on the property, on the structure. And we're talking about tents, it could be the homemade shelters that we see. They just have to be able to be noticed.
Okay.
Okay, the written notice of removal and impoundment shall contain at a minimum the following information. A description of the property to be removed. Such description may refer to an attached photograph, makes it easier. The location of the property, date and time notice was posted, a statement that the property will be removed by the city and impounded if not removed within 24 hours, at the location where the removed property will be stored, a statement where impounded property will be sold or otherwise disposed of if not claimed within 15 days after impoundment, a statement that the property owner shall be responsible for all costs of removal, storage, and disposal. So that meets the standard for what needs to be on that notice.
Okay.
Upon removal and impoundment, the city shall post the written notice in a prominent place for 3 consecutive days on or at the public property where the property was stored or seized. So it's not just the initial, it has to stay there for a while. In the event that impoundment by the city is impractical as a result of the size, extent, or amount of unlawful structures or stored personal property, the city may, as an alternative to immediate removal and impoundment, provide 15 days for removal by the owner of such property from the public premise, at which time the city may remove the unlawful structures and or stored personal property and immediately dispose of such property as provided for below. And I believe, Bill, help me out, this is where if it's a large thing that we're talking about, that a large structure, and we don't want to move it ourselves, we can post it for 15 days?
Yes, sir, or their items that they've collected, that's still considered property, so old bicycles, old barbecue grills, it's still considered property, and so that's why
Okay.
we don't have the means to store it, we don't have the staff to pick it up, haul it, so we will impound it on location.
Okay.
Okay.
Below that, in that same section, the city shall serve written notice as described above, stating that the property not removed within 15 days shall be removed by the city and immediately disposed of, and shall state the date of such removal by the city. Written notice shall be further posted in a prominent place on or at the public premise where the property is located for 15 days prior to the removal and disposal of or under this section. Property, and going down to G, second paragraph on page 15, property impounded under this section shall be stored by the city at the location stated in the written notice for a period of no less than 15 days, during which time the owner thereof may reclaim such property, provided that the city may require satisfactory proof of ownership or entitlement. The property owner may be assessed moving, storage, and other related fees and costs. Additionally, the owner of impounded property shall bear the responsibility for the risk of any loss or damage of the impounded property.
Okay, Bill, Miss Judy has a question on G.
Madam Chair, thank you. Bill, I'm just wondering, the next to the last sentence that you just read, the property owner may be assessed moving, storage, and other related fees and costs incurred by the city.
Yes, yes.
Can we put that in there?
Okay,
Just
let me think.
because, so it's specific.
And any costs incurred by the city.
Incurred by the city, yes. Thank you.
Is that okay with everybody else?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. H, the foregoing notwithstanding, the city shall not be required to provide advance notice or removal of any property constituting an imminent threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, nor shall the city be required to impound perishable materials or materials deemed hazardous, dangerous, or noxious, which materials may be disposed of immediately and without further recourse by the owner thereof. So if it's really bad stuff, we can just get rid of it.
Okay.
Under I, the city may sell or otherwise dispose of impounded property unclaimed 15 days after seizure. All fees and unpaid rent, debts, and charges owing, and all expenses of handling, storage, appraisal, advertising, and other sale expenses incurred by the city shall be deducted from the proceeds of any sale of the impounded property. Any amount remaining shall be held in trust for the owner of the property for 30 days after the sale, after which time the proceeds shall be paid into the general fund. The city, its officers, employees, and agents shall not be liable to the owner of impounded property because of any disposal of the property made pursuant to this section. The remedies available to the owner of impounded property are limited to those provided in this article.
Okay. I have a question on general fund. Is there someplace other than the general fund? Do you guys have a line item? Do you need money to continue with your equipment or anything? I mean, once you get it in the general fund, it's sucked up by the world.
They are part of the general fund. Code enforcement is.
But they have a line, right?
Right,
Can
yeah,
it go
their
strictly
line
to,
item, code
can it
enforcement.
go to code enforcement, not general fund?
There's no reason why it couldn't. That's more of an accounting question than a legal one.
I mean, what do you feel? I mean, everything goes in the general fund and it gets lost. It needs to not be lost because this is strictly ordinance deal.
You're looking for a separate line item in the general fund under the code enforcement where
Correct.
this could go to for their
Correct.
operations.
Correct. Whether it's paying for fuel, tickets, whatever the case may be. That's a little bit trickling in. Can we check on that one, please?
We can.
Thank you.
We can do that by legal.
Thank you.
Good point.
Okay, and on to J.
The city shall maintain a record of the date and method of disposal of the impounded property, including the consideration received for the property, if any, and the name and address of the person taking possession of the property. Such record shall be kept as a public record for a period of not less than 1 year from the date of the disposal of the property.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
it's just a stupid thing again. I think the one you just read should be J, it may be, and then the inspection at the bottom should be K,
Correct.
H-I-J-K, and I can't,
Actually, can I jump in here? That was meant to be in a whole new section. That's a separate, it's not, I think when it got copied over to this,
Oh.
it got turned into part of the nuisances on public property. It's actually supposed to be a whole new section whatever, 16 dash whatever inspections, because now we're doing a different thing.
Okay, so that doesn't even need to be on the page.
No, it can go, it should be its own section.
Okay.
All right, and under that new section, inspections, top of page 16. City code enforcement officers are authorized to conduct inspectional searches as that term is defined in section 24-1-16 of the New Mexico State Statutes. New Mexico statutes annotated in order to investigate the existence on or in any real property within the city of a public nuisance or other violation of this chapter. Such officers may enter at any reasonable time if the officer has the occupants or custodian's consent of any real property within the city to ascertain the existence of any public nuisance. Number 3, in the event that consent to an inspectorial search has been refused or is otherwise unobtainable within a reasonable period of time, the officer may apply to the presiding judge of the Roswell Municipal Court for an inspection order. The application shall state by oath or affirmation of the code enforcement officer the facts alleged showing probable cause of the existence of a public nuisance or other violation of this chapter in or upon the real property and the basis for such alleged facts. The judge shall, upon a finding of probable cause, issue an inspection order detailing the real property to be inspected and the alleged public nuisance to be abated. And finally, notwithstanding the foregoing, whenever it reasonably appears to a code enforcement officer that there may be a public nuisance or other violation of this chapter eminently dangerous to the health and safety, the detection of or correction of that of which requires immediate access without prior notice to premises for the purpose of inspectorial search, and if the consent to such search is refused or cannot be promptly obtained, the code enforcement officer may make an emergency inspectorial search of the premises without an inspection order.
And I will just jump in and say that this one, we didn't discuss it at the last time, but it's something that I've been talking with Bill Bartlett about for a while. This one actually comes out of a section of the state statutes which authorizes this kind of action. And so a lot of this language is mirrors or is similar to or is based on something that comes out of the statute. And so a lot of the terminology, like inspectorial search, is a little bit of a funky term, but that's how they refer to it, so I kept the language.
Ms.
Okay.
Angela, are you good so far?
I had to get close to remember where I was. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm okay. I had a question with the reasonable, I guess I have where the reasonable, to me, that's an ambiguous word, but I guess, is that a normal terminology in this here legal jargon? Reasonable?
Reasonable is just about the favorite word that lawyers have. They love it, love it, love it, love it. You will hear lawyers talk about reasonable this and reasonable that all day long. They love it.
Because I'm like, well, my reasonable and your reasonable.
Yeah, there is an entire, probably, you could fill a library with legal decisions about what is reasonable and what is not. That's all I can say.
Okay, I'll leave it alone then.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, what page we heading to now, Mr. Bill?
Okay, we are off to, everything else we've gone over quite a few times until we get to page, where am I? I'm sorry. Page 30. And this is the one section where storage, that's Article 3, storage or abandoned vehicles, dismantled or inoperable motor vehicles. And this is the one that code enforcement officers sometimes have a great deal of trouble because of inoperable vehicles in the rights of way and what they can tow. And also we discussed lack of insurance and registration, whether those things should be. And so in the first paragraph there, 6-35, violation, nuisance, exceptions, we went in and just added that these vehicles need to have, among the ability to turn on, they have to be registered and they have to have insurance. Secondly, the ability to basically take care of the presence of further in the sentence or in the paragraph, abandoned, wrecked, dismantled, or inoperative or partially dismantled vehicles or parts, except for those parts which have been reconstructed or converted for practical use on both. We added both private property that was there and within the city right-of-way. So what we want to say is these things, if they're in the right-of-way, are now susceptible or available to this. So that gives a lot more flexibility to the code enforcement officer to deal with these certain situations where there's lots of cars that don't have, that they're sitting in the right-of-way and aren't registered, and so we felt that was a good thing. Is that okay with everybody? It's simple and yet it's important.
Good, okay. Keep going.
Now, on the next page, we had originally talked about, I want make a motion to basically strike under 16-36, number 1, that paragraph. This is the one where we've had issues with cars, and we had discussed, is there a way to think about maybe how many cars do you have per property, or, you know, is there a limitation? And based on other conversations, we're not sure that we're ready to take that on. And so we want to take this one out for right now, but we do want to put those two diagrams and maintain number 2. And some of the issues is that when the cars are parked, say the driveway's full and there's still more cars, they park out in the street. And what we don't want them to do is cut off parking spaces, or I'm sorry, crosswalks, which is what you see in the bottom paragraph. And so there has to be a clear space between the end of the sidewalk and where the cars can go. Also, the other problem is when cars are approaching on both sides of the apron of a driveway, you can't see out when you're trying to pull out. And so you want to have a little bit of a clear space. It's just some of these situations are getting really, really crowded, and we want to put that in there for consideration, just for public safety. And that's the last of the amendments that we had.
So will you explain that little picture one more time to me? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, you want us to
So
explain?
you're saying, say when my driveway, how it kind of curves out to the little, I guess you call it an apron on my picture. So you're saying that at the end of my driveway, even in my property, I cannot 5 feet from my driveway?
That's the
Or am I
intent,
mistaken?
because your cars are not the only ones that can actually park there. And we actually discussed that too, whether you as a property owner, I think we've had this discussion where a property owner is required to take care of the sidewalk, even though it's not their sidewalk, it belongs to the city, but it's within the right of way. But you're still responsible for the sidewalk. You're responsible for that landscaping strip that's out there. You're also eligible to determine whether you want to keep your election sign that somebody's put out there or not. And so the idea was, by extension, can you control that area out in front of that street? Because one thing that I know a lot of code enforcement people get into or hear about are arguments over a neighbor parking in front of somebody else's house, because that's somebody else's parking space. That's the perception there, but it's not. So, but we want to make sure that the cars are not so close to that driveway that when you try to pull out, you can't see oncoming traffic. It hinders it, you can't see it, and so it's just to give it a little bit of a buffer.
Is there like a time limit for that? Say, for instance, I run into the house next door, I park right there, I run in, are you talking about at all, or are you talking about maybe I ran into to grab my baby and came back out? So just, I got 18 kids, so maybe I just ran in to grab my kids. And so would there be a time limit, or that just means period at all, point blank?
I think the intent here is that since there's no way for us to really monitor time, how long these things are out there, the idea is that if you see it and it happens and it causes a problem, I know in my community, I know that there are homes that have cars completely filling their driveways, and 3 cars fit out in front. And they're right up against the driveway, and they're also up against the sidewalk, coming down the sidewalk ramp at the corner. And so it's a tight fit. The intent here is not to be overly restrictive. The idea is to try to create a safety margin within some of these crowded areas.
Did you,
Okay,
you got all that, Miss Angela?
yeah, I'm okay with that. It just seemed like, okay, so we're just really now I can't park, outside of my driveway, because then we're gonna have that truck issue. Well, it's a little too long, it's 2 feet long, and now you're 2 feet over the line, and so I just didn't want it to get petty with those kind of, so no one's gonna stop them if they're 2 inches over,
No.
or something like that. So I just didn't want it to get petty, but with the picture there included, I think I'm a little better okay with it. And I agree with taking out that number 1, the first one, that notion. I don't know if you made a motion or not, but to remove that first pair, because I was one of the ones fussing about how many cars and all that that I can have in my driveway or my yard or whatever that that I pay good money for. But I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Just removing 1 and adding the pictures for 2. So I agree with that motion. Can we have a motion right now?
Nope, we don't have a motion yet. I'm going to see if Miss Judy has anything she wants to add.
I guess I have a question, I'm not quite sure how to phrase it. Let me look back. This is, section 16 of it's chapter 16 of the zoning code. Is that correct? No, tell me.
Of the city code.
Okay, chapter 16 of the city code. Oh, okay, gotcha. So, and this is talking about on residential property primarily.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I think what I'm trying to ask is, we approved at the last council meeting the home occupation changes.
Mhm.
So since this is residential, does home occupations have to comply with this plus what we said for home occupations?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So have we looked at these in comparison with each other? Did you?
I have, because I wrote
Good.
both.
Good.
No,
Because-
and I understand, it's not a uniform document
Right.
that would be, but they're really meant for different things. If this needs to be somewhere else, that's a motion y'all can make. Bill,
I-
whether it helps him or not, it may be more appropriate in the zoning code, but it just ended up in this part.
Okay.
But they're not mutually exclusive, those sections.
Okay, okay. Well, this may be from the home occupation, but the
Right.
home occupation
But this
is
applies
not
for all.
from this. Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
This would apply to all home occupations,
Okay.
only for that.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
You good? Okay. So I believe we're ready for a motion, and that's going to include Section 16-8 incurred by the city added, Section 16-8I to go to line item, the monies to go to a line item for him.
Code enforcement.
Thank you, code enforcement, him. Okay, and then Section 16-36 to remove number 1. Is that, do I have everything there?
Believe so?
Feel good with that, Ms. Judy? Would you like to make that motion?
Well, except I do, if I can, I'm sorry. Why is 16-41 through 43, why is that all removed?
61, 4.
We
On
did that
page
last-
32,
Yeah, we did that last meeting, if I remember correct.
on page 32 of the packet.
We took it out. 16-41, we took everything out.
Right, right.
Okay,
So we have 16, 40, 41, 42, and 43 are all removed.
okay, and reserved, okay.
I
Madam Chair,
assume,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead,
Madam
Ms.
Chair.
Angela.
So those ones that were taken out, so they can't request a hearing, is that what you're saying, or they moved to someplace else? I can't remember with slips and things. So, cause like requesting a hearing with 30 days and all that, is that someplace else, or they don't get
Yes.
to do that?
These sections, tell me if I'm wrong, Bill.
Counselor, state statute,
Can you come up to the mic
Here.
somewhere?
Yeah, cause I couldn't hear, I'm sorry.
Counselor, state statute allows the owner of the vehicle or the property a 30-day notice from the time we post that before we actually tow it. So they have 30 days. It's mailed to the property owner. It's mailed to the owner of the vehicle. It's physically posted on the vehicle for a month. At that time, we do have the vehicle towed, and the tow truck operator is also required by law to notify them again. So we have never, in my tenure here, there's never been a need for a request for a hearing. They've been adequately notified, and if they wanted to make arrangements to remove that vehicle or obtain a restoration permit for that vehicle, we allow for that within the ordinance. So there's really no need for that in there. I don't see a reason why anybody, if you had an abandoned vehicle on a vacant lot, would need a hearing in front of the city council to dispute, like I said, when they've had 30 days notice, and they can always make arrangements to either obtain a restoration permit or move that vehicle to another location.
So in that notice, does it say, it says you have 30 days, so just because we take it out, we can assume that everybody knows it. So I'm just wondering if, in your notice on the card, it says, this is here for 30 days, so you're saying we don't have to have it in the ordinance, because in the note that you put on their car, or the letter that you mail to them?
It is state statute, ma'am, that we post that vehicle for 30 days and provided a 30-day notice. I'm sorry if I'm not hearing the question completely.
So what I was saying just then is, so in the letter that you send them, because we cannot assume that everybody knows the state statute. I know you know the state statute, some of us know it, but we cannot assume that every Joe Blow knows it. So my question is, in the letter that you send them, is saying you have 30 days, so they know that they have a chance for a hearing to, or not a hearing, but to.
It is, Counselor, on the actual posted notice and on the letter that's mailed to the owner and the automobile owner and the property owner, it's actually a copy of that state statute along with our city code in which we've adopted that. That's physically printed on the letters that we post and mail.
Thank you, that was my only question, as long as it was somewhere and we just didn't assume somebody had to know the code. So thank you, you answered my question. I
Yes,
appreciate it.
ma'am.
Any other questions? Ms. Judy, are you good?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. So do you want to make the motion, or you want me to redo it again? You're looking at me.
I didn't write down what you said.
Okay, we'd like to, let's see. I gotta go all the way back to the beginning.
Okay, I'm going to start with the motion and you fill in the blanks.
Okay, I think it's section 16.8 is where I would start.
That's the first
Okay.
one.
So,
16 what, 8?
yep. So on
All right,
page 13,
Madam Chair, I move to recommend approval for a public hearing and to approve the ordinance revising Chapter 16 and Chapter 8 of City Code. Did I say to City Council after review by the legal committee to include
okay, to include 16-8, to include incurred by the city, which was yours. Section 16-8, the income to go to ordinance, and section 16-36 to remove number 1. And this all goes to legal.
That's it.
Okay, is everybody good? You good, Miss Angela? Second?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, and I got a second from Sabino, so we're good to go. All in favor? Aye? Aye?
Aye.
Aye, okay. All opposed, same sign? Okay.
Nay.
Okay, you oppose this?
Yes.
Okay, so we have one opposed, which would be Angela, if you want to make sure that's in the minutes, please. The other 3 said aye. Okay, so we go on now to non-action items, which we have none. So information. It's
Yes.
all going to legal, yes, ma'am. So Judy can wordsmith it, along with Mr. Parker. They're a good team. We add Barry in there, it just makes it sweet. Okay, that's the 6-hour meetings. Okay, now we have department updates. Do you want to?
We got most of our departments here, if you would like for them to go through.
I don't have any.
You have their monthly reports in your packet. They're all available to you if you have any questions for any of the departments. They're here.
I don't have any questions. Angela, do you have any questions for any of the departments? The only department that is not here is Miss Teresa Bess with dispatch.
And animal control.
And who?
Animal control.
Oh, animal control isn't here either. Everybody else is here.
Not real. I have a question, but I don't know if it's for this meeting. I don't know if it's who, if I'm for the right person. I just, all these pop-up trailers, where do they get permission to do these? Is that a question I can ask?
Are you meaning the food trailers on Friday on Main Street?
No, not on Main Street, just randomly everywhere in the city.
If I remember correctly, they should all have permits to where they are and where they're located. They come to the city and get permits.
That's correct.
And business license.
And business license, I'm sorry. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for any of the departments?
No, just calling to tell you, Department, we appreciate your hard work. We appreciate the reports that you give us monthly, and so that we have quality information. I just want to thank you for all of your time and all of your patience with us at the committees.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Judy?
I think I was going to say the same thing as Counselor Warren, that is, I really appreciate the format of these reports and the time and energy that are put into them. It's very concise and very good, important information, so thank you all.
And it's not that we don't read them, because we do. So it's not a waste of time, guys. It's just we don't have questions. You do such a good job. Okay. The only thing else I have is the next meeting is September 15th.
Yes,
Anything else for you?
that's it for me.
Okay. So we will call public safety done at 5:11, record time. Woo-ha. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you, Miss Angela.
I'm off for quarantine hours of today, so I should be at the next meeting.
Yay, it'll be good to see your face.
All right.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.